What if the oldest story ever told wasn't just a story at all? What if the line between myth and history isn't fixed but shifting, and the truth of who we are has been waiting for us in clay tablets buried beneath the sands? That's the mystery we're exploring tonight. But first, close your eyes. Feel the weight of 5,000 years pressing down on this moment. Tonight, your mind gets to wander somewhere it's never been allowed to go. Will you fall asleep? Maybe. Maybe not. What matters is that for the next little while, you can let go of whatever has been racing through your head today. The obligations, the stress, the constant stream of thoughts. Instead, we're going to step into a puzzle that whispers across history, a question that could change the way we understand ourselves and what it really means to be human. So, get comfortable. Take a deep breath. Let it out. Now, let's journey into one of the oldest and most mysterious questions our species has ever faced. A question that may hold the key to who we really are. Like all great mysteries, it doesn't begin in the stars. It begins here on Earth. Not with rockets or satellites, but with clay tablets created thousands of years ago. Fragments of story, fragments of memory, fragments that may blur the line between myth and history. Imagine this. It is 2003. The desert wind sweeps across Iraq. German archaeologists are at work with ground-penetrating radar, scanning beneath the ruins of ancient Uruk. Suddenly, the outline of a vast structure appears. A chamber, a hall, a tomb. The measurements match something extraordinary. The resting place described in the Epic of Gilgamesh. For one brief moment, myth seems ready to stand up and breathe again. And then, silence. The Iraq War erupts. The dig is abandoned. The story vanishes. And with it, perhaps the greatest archaeological discovery of our time vanished into smoke. But what if one of the greatest kings of legend was actually real, and we found his grave, only to lose it again in smoke and fire? The stakes are not small. If true, this discovery could redraw the boundary between myth and history. Now, picture a quieter scene. You're walking through a museum. A clay tablet sits behind glass. Its surface is pressed with tiny wedge-shaped marks. Cuneiform, the writing of the Sumerians. The label beneath it reads, Creation Myth, Mesopotamia, circa 2000 BC. We glance, we nod, we move on. But what if we paused? What if we asked a forbidden question? Who decided this was a myth? The archaeologist treats the tablet as fact. Its clay is tested, its site catalogued, its age confirmed, yet the words carved on it, the story it tells, are brushed aside as fantasy, half fact, half fiction. How can an object be both? Gilgamesh was dismissed for centuries as legend, a phantom of story. Then his name appeared on inscriptions. He was listed on the Sumerian king list, which curiously gives him a reign not of decades, but of 126 years, a human lifetime multiplied by 2. What kind of being lives that long? What kind of being remembers that long? What are we to make of this? Myth can become history. History can crumble back into myth. The only constant is the evidence itself, and our interpretation of it. But every great mystery has layers, and we've only scratched the surface. The Epic of Gilgamesh, we are told, is humanity's first great story, a tale of kingship, friendship, and loss. The story tells us that Gilgamesh, the king of Uruk, was 2/3 God, 1/3 man, and his every footstep shook the foundations of the world. His power was absolute, his appetites insatiable. And the people of Uruk cried out to the heavens for relief. So the gods answered, and they created Enkidu, a reflection of Gilgamesh, not in his power, but in his soul. Enkidu was innocent and pure, a perfect balance to Gilgamesh's tyrannical civility. When they first met, they fought, yet eventually their rivalry turned to friendship, and an unbreakable bond was forged. In each other, they found the missing piece of their own spirit. They embarked on great adventures, slaying monsters and defying the gods themselves. But the gods grew wary of this union, and Enkidu died in Gilgamesh's arms, and with him died the king's innocence. For the first time, the God King felt mortal. The loss of his friend ignited a new, desperate quest in Gilgamesh's soul, the search for immortality. But the secret he learned was not what he expected. Immortality was not a prize to be won, but a state of being to be realized. The story of Gilgamesh is not just a myth, it is a roadmap of human consciousness. It is our story. We are all Gilgamesh, born into a world we don't fully understand. a mix of divine potential and mortal limitation. We live our lives in a waking dream, chasing power, pleasure, and possessions, only to be confronted by the profound emptiness of loss. It is this loss, this suffering, that serves as the catalyst. It is the alarm clock that begins to stir us from our slumber. The quest for immortality is the quest to awaken our dormant DNA, to activate the divine consciousness that lies sleeping within us. It is the journey from the head to the heart, from the tyrant king to the enlightened being. It is a beautiful lesson, a human one. And yet, behind Gilgamesh's story stands another presence, the Anunnaki. To the Sumerians, these were the great gods who set the boundaries of life and death, and some even whispered that Gilgamesh himself carried their blood. It is here, in their shadow, that the story takes on its deepest mystery. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Anunnaki appear directly. When the gods decide Enkidu must die, it is the Anunnaki who are invoked to decree his fate. They are essentially the divine council, higher than Gilgamesh, higher even than his patron gods, holding authority over life, death, and destiny. Even today, they are a mystery. Anecdotes cling to the Gilgamesh story like dust on clay. Picture this. It is 1872, and George Smith, a self-taught scholar working at the British Museum, is kneeling over a tablet from Nineveh. Candlelight flickers across ancient cuneiform. His eyes widen. His hands tremble. Before him lies proof that Noah's flood was not unique. It was an echo. As he reads, his heart speeds up. The text speaks of a great flood, of an ark, of a man who released a dove to find dry land. It was then that Smith leapt up and actually tore off his own clothes in astonishment. Before him was the story of Noah, but it was written 1,000 years earlier. What Smith had uncovered was not just a parallel tale. It was the very flood story woven into Gilgamesh's own epic, a reminder that what we dismiss as myth may in fact be the source from which Scripture itself once drank. The world gasped. Myth had echoed into Scripture and back again. Even the word Anunnaki shifted under translators' pens. In the 1800s, Christian scholars labeled them as demons or spirits. But to the Sumerians, they were something else entirely. So, a symbolic tale? A poetic myth? Or something else? What if I told you that everything you just heard might be the cover story. Enter Zecharia Sitchin, not an archaeologist, but an economist, not a professor, but a journalist. He taught himself cuneiform, spending decades hunched over ancient marks. His claim was outrageous. The Anunnaki were not gods. They were flesh and blood, visitors, travelers, biological beings from a wandering 12th planet, Nibiru. They came to Earth 450,000 years ago, searching for gold. The details he drew from the tablets are staggering. The Sumerians described planets invisible to the naked eye: Uranus, Neptune, their colors and qualities written down millennia before modern telescopes confirmed them. Their creation story told of Tiamat, a planet struck by one of Nibiru's moons. The fragments became the asteroid belt, the Earth and its moon, born of collision. Today, we call this the giant impact hypothesis. They called it history. The Anunnaki, tired of laboring, created workers. They took an existing hominid, blended its DNA with their own, and called the result Adamu, the first human. The evidence piles higher. A Sumerian cylinder seal, VA243, appears to depict the solar system with an extra 12th body. The Sumerian king lists describe reigns lasting tens of thousands of years. And behind closed doors in the 1970s, NASA scientists privately debated these translations, not dismissing them outright, but worrying what would happen if the public believed. Why would NASA scientists debate ancient tablets behind closed doors? What were they afraid the public might discover? Sitchin was ridiculed, yet he insisted, "I am reading the tablets plainly, without the blinders of dogma." What if the story of our creation wasn't metaphor, but manual? And if it was true, what would it mean? It would not erase God, but relocate the divine from heaven to history, from one small planet to an unlimited universe. The thought is terrifying. If they made us, are we free? Could they unmake us? Did they abandon us? And yet, step back. Across the world, cultures told the same stories. Floods, towers, rulers who descended from the sky. Perhaps the point is not to believe or dismiss. Perhaps the point is simply to look at tablets, at star maps, at king lists, and wonder for ourselves. To wonder is to be free. We cannot know with certainty gods, kings, aliens, metaphors, but perhaps certainty is not the point. The veil between myth and history shimmers like heat over desert sand. It is not a wall at all. It is a doorway. One side holds comfort. The other holds infinite possibility. And the choice to step through is ours. We can hold both truths at once. Gilgamesh as a parable of mortality and as a record of origins beyond the stars. Maybe the Anunnaki could grant power. Maybe they could even decree fate. But they could not quiet the longing in Gilgamesh's heart, that yearning for meaning beyond death. Even possible interference from beings not of this world cannot erase what it means to be human. That may be the most important thing to remember. And what of us, here and now? Today, you can pull up the Epic of Gilgamesh in high resolution on your screen. In 2016, scholars uploaded the entire text online, letting anyone, anywhere, debate its meaning. We are no longer passive readers of placards in museums. We are participants in the story. Long ago, Sumerian priests sealed their texts with warnings, curses upon those who altered them, but blessings upon those who preserved them, and most of all, upon those who sought to understand. That blessing is ours to inherit. History is not a wall built of stone. It is a river of whispers, flowing from clay tablet to smartphone screen. You are standing at its shore. So, let your mind drift now. Picture the flood myths rising and falling like tides. The tablets buried and rediscovered. The sky above you, vast, spangled with stars. Maybe the Anunnaki were gods, maybe rulers, maybe travelers from constellations unnamed. Maybe they were good, maybe they are not. What matters is not what they were, but that you are free to wonder about it. Because perhaps the greatest story ever told is not the one etched in clay, but the one that begins when you whisper to yourself, "What if?" Well, if your eyes are still open, I hope your thoughts feel a little farther away from the noise. Thank you for listening. If tonight's story helped you slow down, feel free to subscribe. There's always another mystery to explore, and I'd love to share it with you. No matter what, I wish you peace and good thoughts. Good night, dreamers.